Hi, I'm Katria Jenkins. I'm the Executive Director with Embrace Families in Osceola County. Embrace Families is the lead child welfare agency for Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County. We work with a number of community partners to provide community and prevention services to families. Our initial stance is to always work with children in home with their biological families, and then in relative placements. And if that can't be maintained, then we serve them in foster homes. We also provide adoption services. We serve approximately 1,700 children in foster care on a daily basis, as well as approximately 1,600 families through prevention services. Unfortunately, child abuse is very common in that 1 out of 5 children will experience abuse by the time they're 18. On a daily or yearly basis, millions of reports are called in nationwide. And so awareness is the key to preventing child abuse and helping families. ACEs, the term is Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it's a term that we use to group negative experiences that children face or witness while they're growing up. So the categories include sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse. It also includes emotional neglect or physical neglect. And there's other dynamics mentioned as well that describes dysfunctions in the household, such as domestic violence or living with a relative or family member who experiments with drugs or abuses drugs or even have mental health concerns. Adverse childhood experiences harms the development of a child's brain because of the constant exposure to toxic stress. It causes the brain to wire in a fight-flight stance. So young children are unable to regulate their emotions. They have poor impulse control. When they grow up and become teens, you start seeing the risky behaviors. And so you have teens that may become involved in criminal activity. They may drop out of school. You see your teen pregnancies here as well, and even the use of drugs. If the behavior isn't stopped with services and supports, it transpires into adulthood. And now you have many maladaptive behaviors in addition to chronic diseases such as lung disease, heart disease, and even cancer. And so if services aren't in place, and let's say the adult starts having children, now you have a manifestation of dysfunctions that leads to child abuse and neglect, and it turns into a vicious cycle where you have parents that are abusing their children and then their children's children. And so having services and supports in place as early as possible is really key to stopping and preventing child abuse and neglect. With families, what we tend to see is stressors. And so when you have families that lack funding for housing, job loss, and other maltreatments all rolled into one, the emotions and the stress is very high. And so it becomes very challenging when you have a child in your home that also needs attention or may have special needs. And so as a parent, you're stressed because, you know, the money isn't there, the housing isn't there. Maybe you can't find the resources or the food that you need to support and care for your family. But in the meantime, you have a child that's also needs you, and they're very rambunctious or having their own challenges. And so, yes, the tendency for abuse to happen in those type of situation definitely increases. We know that young children, like toddlers that are trying to walk, they will have marks and bruises. Like they'll have those bruises and those bony prominences, like their elbows and their knees. Sometimes they may fall to have a little, bump on the forehead. But when you're looking for abuse, you're looking for significant bruising, like across the face, the arms, the back area, the inner thighs. You're looking at children that are consistently unkept, constantly hungry, maybe asking for food. You're looking at children who are extremely afraid of their parent. And you're also looking for parents who mishandle their children, or they're overly rough. If you suspect abuse, this is, very important, right? If you suspect abuse, then calling in to the abuse hotline is what is needed, right? And so that's 1-800-96-ABUSE. And I know that that's hard, because many folks or many people believe that when you call in to the abuse hotline, kids will automatically be removed from their home. And that's not always the case. Most of the time, this is an opportunity for families to get the necessary supports to stabilize their family. So I know, taboo is, people are afraid of calling in abuse reports, but the calls are anonymous. And then you make the call, and then you allow the investigator or the state to do what they need to do to assess the families and put the necessary supports in place. I encourage everyone to take the pledge and check in at thecheckinproject.org.